Whoever sits in the front row is actually going to get free Bitcoin, so I don't know why anybody would want to come up. Everybody in the front row gets free Bitcoin. Come on.
How much?
We have way too many people to not have enough sitting in these seats. Come on up, come on up.
Hey, whoever sits in those front seats is a cool NFT.
Yeah.
You get NFT and Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, everybody, thank you so much for coming to the blockchain backyard. Give yourselves a round of applause because that's what gets people excited. My name's Jonathan. I'm the founder of TF Labs and Niftmint. Let's give a big round of applause to Mike Morgan behind the grill. Mike is also part of Niftmint and TF Labs. We've actually been working in the crypto space together since 2018. I myself have been in the space since 2017. We actually just moved into this office space in May. So May 1st was our first time here. We're going to be hosting. Is everybody having a good time, by the way? Or yeah. Okay, good. Nice. So we'll be hosting Blockchain Backyard the first Thursday of every month throughout the summer. So we had a good crowd here. We're going to have to cut it off. So if you like this, make sure that you register ahead of time. You all actually received an email. If you registered, you received an email from me that I just sent out a couple hours ago. In that email, there's three main things. One is you can claim your free NFT. Did everybody see that email, by the way? So make sure you claim your free NFT. That's through Niftmint. And you'll get, it's a really simple, easy way to if you haven't had an NFT before, it's a really quick, easy way to get it. But basically, think of it like your confirmation that you attended here. The second thing is actually, you'll see a link there to our Telegram. Make sure that you join that Telegram as well. That's the best way to understand and know what's happening. And then third is pull out your phones, take pictures, tweet that you're here, put on LinkedIn that you're here, tag us. We'll go ahead and retweet that. We'll send this out to everyone as well. So just super quick, and then I'll introduce our awesome panel. And we're gonna actually keep this panel super short because it sounds like everybody's doing a really good job of networking. Has anybody met someone interesting today?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, good. Good. So that's what we really want to happen is we want to make sure that you're meeting interesting people, that you're connecting with each other. Those of us that are in Web3 have been in it for a long time, and there's probably some people who are new to it. We're still early. We're still in the very, very early days of Web3. We're technically in a bear market right now. But personally, I actually like bear markets, and I'll tell you why. Because the people in this room are people that really care about what's happening. They don't necessarily care about the hype aspects of it. And I think this is personally my second bear market, and I noticed that the first time around as well. So if you are here, that means that you probably care about Web3 more than just the face value stuff about it, like crypto stuff about it. So congratulations to all of you for being here. With that, I want to go straight to our panel. But sorry, before I do, if you guys have any questions on how to claim your free NFT or how to join the Telegram, just find myself or find Mike right over here. Sorry, one thing I forgot. We actually do open up our space every couple Fridays, and we're going to try to get more consistent about that. So if anybody here is actually working in Web3, we actually do some co-working for free. Anybody can come here and co-work out of the office. So we'll let you know about that. Again, good way to know about that is through the Telegram. With that, anybody have questions, anything they need? Okay, cool. So let's get to the panel, and then we'll have some good conversations. We'll open it up for some quick conversation. We'll probably do this panel about 20 minutes or so. And then we'll go back outside and have some more great drinks, great food, and great conversation. So with that, I want to welcome my panelists. So first, I'd like to welcome Maria Gilfoyle, who is with Madrona Ventures. Come on down. And then Haseeb, and I can't say your last name, so I'll let you say it. Come on up. What's that?
Qureshi.
Oh, it's way easier than it looks.
It's
Qureshi.
good.
Welcome, come on down. With Dragonfly. And then we got Christian with OP Crypto. Come on down, Christian.
Woo!
I do have the remote.
Test over.
Oh, let's turn it down.
Oh, there you go. Perfect.
Yeah, we have a good background here. First off, thank you so much for being the first panelist for Blockchain Backyard. I'd love if each one of you could introduce yourselves real quick, and then we'll go straight into some questions. We're going to be talking about the venture outlook on Web3 and just what VCs are looking at. What does the market look like? It's a little scary out there, and there's a lot of Twitter VCs who say things that make founders get scared, but like, does it really need to be that scary? We'll just talk about that real quick. So let's just go right on down the line. Maria, could you introduce yourself? Let us know.
Well, first, thank you so much for organizing this today. This is an incredible space and group of people, so thank you. I'm Maria. I'm an investor at Madrona Ventures Group. We are an early stage venture capital firm here in Seattle. We were founded 27 years ago, so we are not a crypto-only VC, but we've always invested in new technology at the infrastructure and consumer layers. So we do a mixture of enterprise, consumer, and crypto, and we love investing in Seattle founders. So.
Awesome, thank you. Haseeb.
Cool. I'm Haseeb. I'm managing partner at Dragonfly Capital, which is a global crypto venture investment fund. We only do crypto. We've been early investors in stuff like Avalanche, Algorand, Cosmos, Definity, Bybit, whatever. We've been up and down the stack, layer ones, layer twos, DeFi. We kind of do everything. So that's Dragonfly.
Nice.
Happy to be here, guys. It's actually my first time in Seattle, so I'm excited.
Woo!
I've been able to do this for a really long time, so happy to. First time here, just flew in and I'll be on the panel. Thank you for the invite. Truly appreciate it. Christian at OP Crypto. We're a Web3. We have two vehicles. The first one, it's a $50 million venture fund deploying across DeFi, DAOs, the metaverse, and the creator economy. And we also are currently raising a second vehicle, which is going to follow a fund-of-funds strategy, and that's the team that I'm part of. Happy to be here and obviously share any sort of outlets that I can.
Awesome, well welcome. I'm so thankful that you're all here with us today. I want to encourage everybody here in the audience real quick to pull out your phones. A lot of times they tell you like, put your phone away. I'm going to say the opposite. Pull your phone out, take a picture, and I want you to tag these amazing people real quick when you tag it. So Maria, what's your Twitter?
I'm just mariagilfoyle.e.
Okay, and Haseeb, what are you?
Haseeb, Hosseeb.
Christian, what are you?
So, N like Nancy, ARVAZ, Chris.
All right, so hopefully you can remember all that.
Super easy.
I'm JG Product, and we're here at TF Labs and Niftmint. So take pictures, tweet it out. Let's give some FOMOs to some people that didn't come out just for fun. With that, so let's get right to it. Right now, we are in what people would consider a crypto bear market, and I'm curious, does the price of Bitcoin, Ethereum, or any crypto have any impact on how you think about investing in a Web3 company? And anybody just jump in.
I think Maria should take that. No, I think this one's for you.
Okay, so we take the approach of Madrona. We want to invest in companies early and then partner all the way through. They IPO or they exit in some form, and often we will take board seats and stay with them the entire way past our ownership. So we don't look at token value for like Bitcoin or Ethereum or any token as a sign of the company's performance or product market fit. So we're really excited about companies finding customers, establishing product market fit. We diligence Web3 companies just like Web2 companies, and then we look for who are the customers, how big is the market, how are they serving those customers. And if they have a token, great, but we don't think the token value signals product market fit. And same for Bitcoin and Ethereum's value. Like if Bitcoin is up, great. If it's down, we don't think it signifies the value of the company and product in the space.
So I think so the question was specifically about Bitcoin and Ethereum, right?
Or just the crypto market.
Or crypto market generally. The one thing about crypto that's been true basically since inception is that correlations in crypto among other crypto assets are extremely high. Meaning that if, at any given day, if you know that Bitcoin is up, if you know that Bitcoin is down, you can guess pretty well how everything else is going to look. And so because of that correlation right now is really high within the market, it's very likely that when Bitcoin is up, Bitcoin is down, that's going to affect the outcomes for pretty much any startup in the space. There are some things that are directly tethered to Bitcoin, like exchanges, that when Bitcoin is higher, exchanges, like, because they tend to do turnover roughly in a number of crypto assets rather than a number of dollars. So when crypto assets are higher, they just trade more Bitcoins. Or sorry, they trade about the same amount of Bitcoins, but the Bitcoins are worth more money, and so their fees are more. And so they make more money when crypto goes up. Same thing, there's some businesses that are intrinsically tethered to the price of Bitcoin Ether. But for startups, especially on the crypto native side, most of the time it's like, look, if you're building something in DeFi, okay, maybe it doesn't matter in principle whether Bitcoin is at 20K or 30K, but almost certainly if Bitcoin is going from 30K to 20K, everything in DeFi has also drawn down by 33%, and that's going to affect the way you think about valuations in DeFi. Now that being said, crypto is super cyclical, right? You've been through the downturns, probably you guys have seen enough craziness in crypto to know crypto does this, right? But it does this with a bias upward over time, right? Every cycle gets bigger and the numbers get larger. But you have to be able to look past that to be able to fund startups. But the pricing of startups is always going to be influenced by whatever the public market pricing is.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, from our perspective, so the simple answer is no. As early stage investors, we're looking at the infrastructure that's being built, and as long as they, it's a great use case, whatever warehouse that are being built and the project that we like across, whatever sort of our vertical focus is, we'll partner up with them. But the simple answer is no for us.
Yeah, and to touch on what you just said about infrastructure, right? It seems like there is a lot more infrastructure this downturn than there was, call it, in 2018. How do you all look at that overall? Is right now the time for infrastructure? What phase are we at in the crypto or Web3 building phase?
Sounds like a question for Maria.
We're super excited about the infrastructure plays in this space. We think that there's new consumer behavior that started to exist over the past 3 years, and that people now have more things they can do with their crypto. They can buy NFTs and put those in games. They can use them as profile pictures. There's starting to be some forms of utility NFTs. We saw Web3 gaming start to exist. We see like DeFi exploding in new ways. We see culture intersecting with the space. And so with new consumer behavior continuing to emerge, we think that there's opportunity for more infrastructure to enable that and create a seamless user experience. The key question we have with every infrastructure company and how infrastructure companies in this space are, who are the customers and what are the core use cases and how will that evolve over time? And so we think infrastructure is super exciting, but identifying the key customers for that infrastructure is super important.
And just to keep it simple, we're still pretty early. So as long as, projects that are sort of creating use cases that are at an infrastructure level, like picks and shovels, we want to be there, right? Like we don't invest in hypes or like collections of NFTs that I think a lot of that's what the media shows you, like whatever's going up or whatever's going down. So no, we don't invest in that.
Yeah, I think infrastructure, it can be a very deceiving word, because infrastructure sounds really serious. It sounds like infrastructure, that's important, and it should be there, and it's just like a thing that people with suits do is they build infrastructure. But I think I've seen a lot of startup pitches over time for infrastructure that it solves some very, very narrow thing that somebody who's building a startup is like, man, it really sucks to do payroll in a DAO. And so I'm going to build DAO payroll, and that's okay, that's infrastructure, right? It helps, makes things more efficient. But generally speaking, especially in a bear market, you want to be thinking more about how do I solve the biggest possible problem I can solve. And when it comes to infrastructure, there's a big difference between solving one of the big problems in crypto. There's a lot of problems in crypto around scalability for everything. Whether it's in DeFi, whether it's in layer ones, whether it's in gaming, everything is facing this big problem. That infrastructure problem is fucking massive. Yeah. And whoever solves it is going to win a really, really big pie. Or usability, just figuring out how to get NFTs, GameFi into people's hands in a way that they can understand. That's a huge problem. And whoever solves that is going to win a really big reward at the end. But then there's also infrastructure that's like this very narrow little thing that makes this thing slightly better. And it's a trap that I think a lot of founders can fall into, because infrastructure feels more serious than a lot of the other stuff in crypto that feels more kind of crazy.
Right, right. So that makes me kind of start to think about how, I guess, Madrona being not necessarily not crypto, but investigating it, and both your funds being heavy crypto. Is there a need for crypto-only VCs? And then to add the second side of that is like, how do crypto-only VCs want to see, call it your traditional VC, come into the market, or like where does that, call it, tension lie?
I think that's a good one for the OG here.
Yeah, well, no, what I'd say is, I don't think you would need crypto native VCs if the regular VCs were just better at it. But they're not. They kind of hang out and like wait for the things to come to them and wait for the products to prove themselves. And in the meantime, we've just been grinding out here for the last like 5 years. So I mean, my view is that like it's very rare that you get industry verticalized specific VCs, right? And I think the reason why crypto VC evolved the way that it did was that all the, like, because I was at one of the very first crypto VCs called Medicine Capital back in 2017. And at that time, none of the traditional VCs wanted to touch crypto. They thought that it was basically illegal. They thought that it was just kind of just shady. The people weren't serious. The technology was kind of bullshit. But the numbers were going up. And so they were like, look, we're interested, we're curious, but we're not going to touch it ourselves. Like, you guys go touch it, because you're these crypto native VCs. And so we actually had a bunch of VCs as investors. So, Sequoia was an investor, USV was an investor, A16Z was an investor, but they weren't doing it themselves. They were like, we don't want to touch tokens, we don't want to touch Ethereum, we don't want to touch any of this weirdness, but we'll invest in you guys can go do the dirty work. And I think that attitude is why crypto native VCs had to exist.
Nice. Anybody else have thoughts?
Yeah, I think so. First, Madrona never invested in crypto-only VCs. We've only approached the space like from our perspective. But I think, I think a lot of that's true. I think that like with more traditional venture capital firms, like we're not ever going to be a crypto-only VC because we've been around for 27 years and crypto didn't exist. And I think like when we invest in any technology, like we want to just see we want to see consumer use cases evolve for that technology, and we're excited to invest in any new technology in the infrastructure and consumer layers. And we have people internally that have become quite knowledgeable in the space and have been looking at the space and making actually some angel investments for the past 6 years. But we also have a lot of respect for investors that have a domain expertise in any sort of space. So like we have a lot of investments at the intersection of biology and computer science, and we often will partner with a bio-focused only fund or a bio-focused only angel investor and co-lead that round. And so we definitely value domain expertise, and like we are happy to invest alongside a crypto-only VC or vice versa and bring different perspectives to the table.
To be clear, I was not trying to call it Madrona in particular. As a general phenomenon.
But yeah, I think
Madrona's great.
I think as a general phenomenon though, like traditional VCs were scared of crypto for a while, and that's totally true. And I think that now you're seeing that shift, and like founders should raise from multiple investors and have different perspectives on their cap table.
Totally agree.
And then from our perspective, to give investors that don't really understand Web3 just yet, like the fund of funds vehicle that we have today, sort of the LPs or the investors that we're approaching are family offices that are still sort of dabbling into it, that want some exposure, and that's the ideal investor for us, because we sort of know the ecosystem a little better. We could identify managers that are raising those sort of very specific vehicles, not only across verticals, but across the world. So a fund of funds vehicle allows those investors that are not well-versed to come in as investors and let us do the dirty work, like you said.
So I got 2 more questions, and then I want to take a couple of questions from the audience. So the first question is, what are founders doing wrong right now in the Web3 space?
Sounds like a question for Maria. Okay, I'll take it.
I'll go after you.
Okay, what are founders doing wrong? There's just so many things. I'd say that one of the most common mistakes that I see is basically people who try to develop their ideas or their worldviews by reading blog posts, especially people who develop their ideas by reading blog posts from investors, or investor types, or like thought leader types. One of the important things to understand about crypto, which is very deceiving, it's very unlike any other industry, in that if you want to be, let's say you want to be like you want to build a startup in consumer, right? Then what you might do is you might go look at like the influencers who are big TikTok stars or whatever, be like, okay, what would this kind of person like, right? And you kind of work backwards from a mental model of who your customers or your users might be. If you do that in crypto, right, you go look at all the crypto influencers, you're like, I'm gonna make a product for that person. You're gonna make your product for really weird people, right? Like crypto influencers are not like normal crypto users. They're very, very different. And the things that they believe, things they talk about, things that they virtue signal on, there are things that most users don't give a shit about. So if you follow all this stuff that's going on with this Bitcoin maxi war with Nick Carter, I don't know if anyone knows what I'm talking about. It's a perfect example of the disconnect between the average user or average holder of Bitcoin and what the Bitcoin intelligentsia or what the crypto intelligentsia thinks about and how they communicate. And so I think it's a very easy trap to fall into is if you look at the influencers, you say, I'm gonna create a product that they approve of. They might use your product, but that's like 20 people, right? And in order to really go mass market, what is the biggest mass market thing in crypto in the world? It's Binance. And how many crypto influencers approve of Binance, right? Not many. They're like, oh, Binance, they're just super shitcoin, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Just a giant casino, it's an exchange, centralized, whatever. That is the most used crypto product in the world. And so I think you should take that into consideration when you're considering starting a startup in crypto is don't fall into the trap of thinking influencers are your customers.
Yeah, that's good. I have two things going off of that. So I completely agree with everything you just said. I think that the first, summarizing that first challenge that founders face is identifying who is the largest customer and how do you create a company that satisfies a customer beyond the traditional crypto user, because it's kind of, in some ways it seems big, like it's crypto hit like a $3 trillion market cap a few months ago. Now it's much lower, but it seems like a big market. But if you look at the number of MetaMask users specifically, I think it's about 1% of Facebook users today. So it's a lot of users, but it's still pretty small. So identifying who is the largest customer base, how can you reach them, how do you reach non-native crypto users and bring them into your company in some way. But the second challenge I see is I see founders implementing crypto-related products into companies that maybe should just be Web2 companies, adding NFTs into a product where they're not actually needed, or adding value to the core product of the company, or adding a blockchain aspect, or adding Bitcoin to their product. And as an investor, I really like to see blockchain and crypto used for something that is not possible with Web2 technology and unlock something completely new. And if it's something that can be done with Web2 technology, well, at this current moment, AWS works pretty well for Web2 technology, and traditional social media works pretty well. We don't have all the infrastructure challenges. So if it's not needed, then they should be separated and I think just thinking super clear, carefully about when the technology is used and how it's being used.
Good. Yeah. All right. So then the next question is, what are founders doing right? What are founders doing right now?
What founders doing right? Yeah, I think. The very simple answer is that one of the things that founders are doing right is that they're leaning less into hype. A large part of the reason for that is that hype stopped working. So that teaches entrepreneurs pretty quick to stop trying to just lean into the narrative du jour. Instead, try to build something for the future. So all the great products in crypto were built with basically zero hype around them. So if you think of Uniswap, right? Nobody gave a shit about Uniswap back in 2019. It was just like a crappy little thing that kind of ran on the internet. It was like, whatever. It was a very small amount of money until DeFi Summer took off. If you look at Solana, back when Solana first launched, nobody gave a shit about Solana. It was before FTX, before Serum, Solana launched. There was no fanfare. The token was okay. It was a very mediocre launch. If you look at OpenSea, OpenSea's been doing NFTs since 2018. NFTs basically died in 2018 when CryptoKitties kind of died off, and they were just grinding. Nobody gave a shit that OpenSea was doing what they were doing. but they were all trying to solve these big fucking generational problems. And they just kept grinding until they got it right. And bear markets, although there's a lot of virtue in sort of being able to do that, a lot of it is just because you're in a bear market. There's nothing else to do. There's no narratives to, there's no hypey thing to talk about. It's just like you do the thing that you're here to do. And I think that is one of the great things about bear markets, that they instill focus in entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that entrepreneurs are doing well right now is just extreme curiosity about the space and willingness to learn. The amount of young people I've met at just traditional technical roles that are building Web3 related side hustles or experimenting in the space, I think is super exciting. And the more talent that comes into the space that's building and trying to come up with new ideas and experimenting, the more the faster the space will evolve and interesting companies will develop.
And in general, I think capital has dried up for, like what he said, overhyped projects, and those who are building sort of real utility on the blockchain, that's where the capital is flowing to. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I want to give a couple people opportunity to ask a question, but my only requirement is it has to be a good question. So, does anybody have a good question? Did I scare people when I said that? Go ahead.
Is there really a use for traditional venture? Because that's not very effective in secondary market partnerships, bringing the product to market. Just curious how you support companies.
Yeah, I mean, is there a use for traditional venture?
Money's
I think this question is for Maria.
Yeah, I mean, so we take so we provide a lot of services to our founders. We were the first check in Amazon, Smartsheet, early investors in Snowflake, Aptio, Coda, Rover, Rec Room. We incubate a lot of companies in-house. In terms of how we add value, it depends on the stage of the company. So a seed or pre-seed stage company, we'll meet with them weekly and just bounce ideas off them, be a resource for them. And for a later stage company, we'll meet with them on more of a quarterly basis in terms of taking a board seat. We have a talent team that does hiring for all of our startups, so helps them identify hiring talent if they need a new CTO or a new COO. We have a talent pipeline for that. We also have a business development team that helps with partnerships, introductions, providing business development support where necessary, and we roll up our hands. So we're basically a text away, a phone call away for anything the founder needs help with. We make a lot of introductions. We specifically specialize in investing in Seattle and Pacific Northwest because we know a huge percentage of the people in the ecosystem and can add value throughout the entire ecosystem. And so I think, if a founder is super crypto only focused and wants to raise from crypto only VCs, that's totally okay. But we've been doing this for 27 years and have had pretty good results. So, and I think same for a lot of venture capital firms, and we're happy to continue to do that with different types of technology, just as we've done with more traditional software. But we think that there should be different perspectives around every cap table.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm curious, do any of you guys have any thesis of what kind of use cases or utility the DeFi, the next few years of DeFi will unlock? Because it seems like the last 2 years were mainly just leverage trading and token emissions for the yields. And so I'm curious if there will be any form of productive yields in DeFi that you guys think.
Productive yields.
Yeah.
I think yield generally is probably not going to do well in DeFi. I mean, yields are very, very important when rates are near zero. Actually, I'm going to be talking about this tomorrow in my ETH Seattle talk if you get a chance to see it. In a macro environment like we've been in the last 10 years, rates have been basically at zero. We're very, very close to zero. And so there's a lot of interest when rates are near zero. When rates are near zero, that basically means that if you have money, it is automatically degrading in front of your eyes, right? Your wealth is constantly becoming less and less valuable by just sitting there. And so the only way that you can maintain your wealth or grow your wealth is by going off and taking big risks. And that's what DeFi was really offering in a lot of ways, was a lot of different ways to get access to high yield. The same thing is true for a lot of fintech as well, is that a lot of fintechs were just packaged up forms of high yield. In a world where real rates become positive, or even zero, when rates increase dramatically, that means that you no longer need to be taking that much risk anymore. And so what you've seen is that although, yeah, crypto prices went down, ETH price went down, blah, 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 but a lot of the capital has left DeFi because a lot of that capital doesn't need to take that much risk anymore to find yield because safe yield is going way up. So what that means is that DeFi over time, over the next year or two, needs to move more toward consumption and less toward yield generation. And when I say consumption, what I mean is giving people the ability to do things they actually need to do. So one of those things might be swapping assets, right? So there will hopefully be more demand for the kinds of things that people actually use in their portfolios, as opposed to things that people simply use to speculate. So things like synthetic assets, things like stablecoins, these are clearly things that people use. They're not just pure speculative instruments, but right now they're a small part of what people do in DeFi, right? Most of what people do in DeFi is they borrow against Ether and then go lever up and do a bunch of crazy yield farming type shenanigans. And that stuff is going to go into secular decline. And the question remains to be seen, will it get replaced with actual consumption use cases? Because if it doesn't, then I think overall you're going to see a big contraction in DeFi.
Nice.
I got a good one, and I'd like to hear from each of you on this. Is that our events, we have a lot of people interested in how do you get into Web3 companies? How do you get into Web3 tech? What's the first step we can take to be involved in this? So for the people here who are in called Web2 companies who are really trying to break into the Web3 space, what is your advice for how you get into Web3?
I mean, I could start. I'm the co-founder of a community called Web3 Familia, and we basically want to educate a cohort of people, Spanish speakers across the world, to learn about Web3, right? So just like there's a community like Web3 Familia, there's other communities like SheFi that just cater to women in the ecosystem and so on. And whenever I sort of talk to people that want to learn, I just remind them that there's no structured way of learning Web3. You have to put in the time. And then a general sort of ecosystem that I like is Bankless. Bankless has a DAO, Bankless has a daily newsletter, Bankless has so many resources for you to go and learn, from videos as well, that you could do it on your own time. So find a community that fits with you and then sort of learn together, and I think that's a good way to start.
Yeah, plus one to all of that. I'm going to give very irresponsible advice, which is if you're working in Web 2 and you want to get into Web 3, just quit your job and start spending all of your time learning about Web 3 and try to get a job in the industry as fast as you can. And there is nothing that will make you learn as fast as not having an income. So that's what I did. That's what he did.
That's what I did.
That's what he did. So that's the real answer.
Come work for me.
Come work for him, or whoever said that. I don't know who said that. There you go.
So I first want to empathize with people that are trying to make the transition from Web 2 to Web 3, because one of the biggest challenges I see is there are more and more Web 3 companies popping up every day, but a lot of them are still super early and have very small teams, and so there's actually way less jobs at Web 3 startups available than Google, Microsoft, Amazon, these huge Web 2 tech companies. So I think it seems like it should be easier than it actually is. So I empathize with that. I also think the biggest need is engineering talent. And so if you're technical and you can provide a technical skill set, that is super needed at any Web3 company. And so if that's a skill set you have, being able to bring that to the table is really valuable. But then beyond that, I think it's learning, talking to people, reaching out to awesome investors that have a lot of crypto companies in their portfolio and can also point you in the direction of companies that are hiring is also a productive way of finding the right role.
We actually host a virtual event once a month called How to Land a Job in Web3. So if anybody's looking for a job in Web3, I encourage you to sit in and listen. We bring in people who are hiring at different companies to talk. And then we actually invite people to go on the screen and talk about themselves and introduce themselves and what they're hiring for. Yeah, I did the same thing. When I got into Web3, I was doing it on the side while I was doing my day job, and then I just kind of had this epiphany. I was like, okay, the worst thing that happens if this doesn't work out is I'll have experience that I can take anywhere with me, and I've been doing Web3 ever since. I don't think I could do just a Web2 thing anymore. But with that, I want to invite everybody to pull your phones out again, take a picture of your panel, and I want you to tag them. What is your, and follow them, of course, too. What is your Twitter again?
I'm at Maria Gilfoyle, Gilfoyle. Just my first name and last name.
And what's your Twitter?
At Haseeb, Hosseeb.
Your Twitter?
At Narvaez Chris, Narvaez Chris.
All right, and I'm JG Product on Twitter. Tweet that out. We'll retweet it overall. We're we're going to go back outside. Our panelists will be here to answer any questions and network as well. We're going to be here until like 8 or 9 o'clock, so there's plenty of time to still hang out. Oh, and we have cake. Who doesn't like cake? So we literally got a birthday cake because it's amazing. So if anybody wants cake, you're welcome to do that. Have some. There's still food outside. And again, just put on your, we haven't announced it yet, but just put it on your calendar that the first Thursday of August to come back here and hang out with us again. We'll do a small panel as well. We'll have drinks and food out on the patio. And again, you did get an email, claim your free NFT, get your NFT, join our Telegram, and follow us on social, so that way you can always know when we're doing real good stuff. So, give everybody a round of applause.
All right.
Alright, so with that, enjoy, go back outside, have some fun, and keep eating and drinking.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks, man. That was awesome.
Thank you. Great job.
You too. Thanks for taking all the hard